pick up at 2.8, Seeing Hazards. 2.8, page 26. So it says, importance of seeing hazards. What is a hazard? A hazard is any road condition or other road user, which could be a driver, a bicyclist, a pedestrian, that is a possible danger. For example, a car in front of you is headed toward the freeway exit, but his brake lights come on and he begins to braking hard. This could mean the driver is uncertain about the off-ramp. He might suddenly return to the highway. This car is a hazard. If the driver of the car cuts in front of you, it's no longer a hazard. It just turned into an emergency. Okay, so again, that is definitely a test question. A hazard is any road condition or any road user. Okay, that's a possible danger. A hazard is any road condition or other road user that is a possible danger. That is a hazard. All right. Seeing hazards lets you be prepared. You will have more time to act if you see hazards before they become emergencies. So this is what we were talking about before yesterday, how you're looking 12 to 15 seconds ahead and you're looking for traffic and you're looking for road conditions. Okay. In the example above, you might make a lane change or slow down to prevent a crash if the crash suddenly cuts in front of you. Seeing this hazard gives you time to check your mirrors and signal a lane change. Being prepared reduces the danger. A driver who did not see the hazard until the slow car pulled back onto the highway in front of him will have to do something very suddenly. Sudden braking or quick lane change is much more likely to lead to a crash. Learning to see hazards. There are often clues that will help you see hazards. The more you drive, the better you learn to see hazards. Okay, so this section is going to talk about hazards that you should be aware of. 2.8.2 on page 27. Slow down and be very careful if you see any of the following road hazards. Of course, the work zone. When people are working on the road, it's a hazard. Not only is a hazard now, right? We talked about it back in section 1, but of course we have the move over law, right? We talked about how that the law says that you should move over to the next lane if safely possible. And if you're unable to move over, then you need to slow down below the speed limit and be prepared to stop. The purpose of that law is to create that barrier between that vehicle and, of course, someone that's out like on a work zone area, someone that's on the side of the road, right? Then you have your drop off. Sometimes the pavement drops off sharply near the edge of a road. Another hazard is foreign objects. Things that are falling off the road, off onto the road can be a hazard. And we've all seen that. On 285, we'll be driving and there's a couch in the middle of the street, right? So that happens. Off ramps and on ramps. Freeway and turnpike exit can be particularly dangerous for commercial drivers. Off ramps and on ramps often have a speed limit sign posted. Remember, these speeds may be safe for automobiles, but may not be safe for larger vehicles or heavily loaded vehicles. Okay, on and off ramps are especially dangerous. All right, drivers who are hazards. Okay, we talked about that. Drivers who are hazards. In order to protect yourself and others, you must know when other drivers may do something hazardous. Some clues to this type of hazards are discussed below. Okay, so you have a blocked vision. People who can't see others are very dangerous hazard. Be alert for drivers whose vision is blocked. Okay, vehicles may be partly hidden by blind intersections or alleys. If you only see the rear or the front end of a vehicle, but not the driver, then he or she can't see you. Be alert because he or she may enter into your lane. Always be prepared to stop. Okay, another hazard, of course, is the delivery truck. Packages or vehicle doors often block the driver's vision. You have parked vehicles, especially when people start to get out of them. They'll swing the door open, not paying attention. Okay. Watch for brake lights and backup lights, exhaust, and other clues that a driver is about to move, right? So someone that's parked on the side of the road. And of course, sometimes, if they're preoccupied, they may not look before they pull out into traffic. Pedestrians and bicyclists can also be a hazard. Walkers, joggers, bicyclists may be on the road with their back to the traffic so they can't see you. That's definitely a hazard. Distractions. People who are distracted are hazards. Watch for where they are looking. If they look elsewhere, they can't see you. But be alert. When they are looking at you, they may believe they have the right of way. Okay. Definitely children. Children tend to act quickly without checking traffic. Okay. When that ball rolls into the street, if you're in a neighborhood, especially on a bus, right? They may run after that bus and not look and see if there's any traffic coming. People that are talking are definitely a distraction. Drivers or pedestrians talking to one another may not pay close attention to traffic. Workers, people working on or near a roadway or a hazard clue. The work creates a distraction for other drivers, and the workers themselves may not see you. Of course, ice cream trucks are a huge hazard because, of course, children, nearby may hear that bell coming down the street and run right to the ice cream truck and not even look for traffic. Disabled vehicles are a big one. Drivers changing a tire and fixing an engine often do not pay attention to the danger that roadway traffic is to them. They are often careless. Jacked up wheels or raised hoods are a hazard clue, and so forth. So there's others there. So I'm not going to read because I've read quite a few of them. So there's other hazards there. So just make sure you read all the way through, all the way over to page 28. Okay. Then 2.8.4 says you should always look for hazards. Continue to learn to see hazards on the road. However, don't forget why you are looking for hazards. They may turn into an emergency. You look for hazards in order to have time to plan a way out of the emergency. I'll repeat that because that's definitely a test question. You look for hazards in order to have time to plan a way out of any emergency. When you see a hazard, think about the emergencies that could develop and figure out what would you do. Always be prepared to take action based on your plans. In this way, you will be a prepared, defensive driver who will improve your own safety as well as the safety of other road users. Okay. All right, 2.9. Distracted driving. Whenever you are driving a vehicle and your attention is not on the road, you're putting yourself, your passengers, other vehicles, and pedestrians in danger. Distracted driving can result when you perform any activity that may shift your full attention from the driving task. Taking your eyes off the road or hands off the steering wheel presents obvious driving risk. Mental activities that take your mind away from driving are just as dangerous. Your eyes can gaze at objects in the driving scene, but fail to see them because your attention is distracted elsewhere. Okay? Activities that can distract your attention include talking to passengers, adjusting your radio, CD player, or climate controls, eating, drinking, or smoking, reading maps or other literature, picking up something that fell, reading billboards and other road advertisements, watching other people and vehicles, including including aggressive drivers, talking on the cell phone or CB radio, using telematic devices such as navigation system or pagers, daydreaming or being occupied with other mental distractions. Okay, those are all definitely all activities that can distract your attention, right? So 2.9.1, how do we not be distracted drivers? Okay, not being a distracted driver, right? If drivers react half a second slower because of distractions, crashes double. Okay, so we talked about that earlier. What was it? Speed on, I think it was, what were we talking about? I'm trying to remember. The effects of speed on stopping. Okay, when you're doubling your speed. So if drivers react a half second slower because of distractions, crashes double. Some tips to follow so you won't become a distracted driver is review and be totally familiar with all safety and usage features and any in-vehicle electronics, including your wireless or cell phone, before you drive. Pre-program radio stations. Preload your favorite CDs or cassette tapes. Okay. Clear the vehicle of any unnecessary objects. Review maps and plan your route before you begin driving. Adjust all mirrors for best all-around visibility before you start your trip. Don't attempt to read or write while you drive. Avoid smoking, eating, and drinking while you drive, and don't engage in complex or emotional, intense conversations with other occupants. Okay. Those are all tips on how to be to not be a distracted driver. Right? All right, 2.9.2. This is definitely a test question here. Let's see here. Trying to see what it says this in the reading. I don't see what I'm looking for, but pull off the road in a safe, legal place when making or receiving phone calls. That is a test question. Okay, pull off the road, and I know it's under 2.2.9. I know it doesn't read that way, but it's definitely a test question worded that way. Pull off the road in a safe, legal place when making or receiving phone calls. If you must use your cell phone, keep the conversation short. Don't attempt to type or read messages on your satellite system while driving. And do not use equipment while in severe weather or heavy traffic or road construction areas. And there's also just some additional information under 2.9.2 I want to point out. So 2.9.2 on page 28. Let's see. It's like the it's the third paragraph down under 2.9.2, third paragraph down. It says, your CDL will be disqualified after 2 or more convictions of any state law on handheld mobile telephone while using a CMV. Disqualification is 60 days for the second offense within 3 years and 120 days for 3 or more offenses within 3 years. In addition, the first and each subsequent violation of such a prohibition are subject to civil penalties imposed on such drivers in the amount of up to $2,750. Okay, we definitely want to make sure that we point that out, because that particular one for cell phones and as well as on under 2.9.3 on page 29 at the top. That is the same stipulation for texting as well. So again, cell phone and texting has that same stipulation. CDL will be disqualified after 2 or more convictions in any state. Law, texting while operating the CMV, qualification is 60 days. For the second offense within 3 years and 120 days for 3 or more offenses within 3 years. Okay, and then you're fined up to $2,750. So just make sure you have note of that particular one as well. Okay. All right. And we just talked about this one, 2.9.3. Did I talk about that? Well, that's under 2.9.3. I apologize. So we just talked about that. Watching out for distracted drivers, vehicles drifting all over the road, vehicle traveling at inconsistent speeds, drivers preoccupied with maps, food, cigarettes, cell phones, and drivers involved in conversations with their passengers. That's all signs of a distracted driver. Okay. All right. You need to be able, 2.9.4, you need to be able to recognize other drivers who are engaged in any form of distracted driving. Not recognizing other distracted drivers can prevent you from perceiving or reacting correctly in a time to prevent a crash. Okay, so what you want to do is give a distracted driver, plenty of room and maintain your safe following distance. Be very careful when passing a driver who seems to be distracted. The other driver may not be aware of your presence and they may drift in front of you. Okay, make sure you give a distracted driver plenty of room and maintain your safe following distance. Because again, like we talked about yesterday, you have no control over what someone else does. You only have control over what you do. So you need to give that driver give them safe following distance for your safety. All right, so under 2.10, an aggressive driving and road rage. Aggressive driving and road rage. Okay, what is it? Aggressive driving and road rage is not a new problem. However, in today's world where heavy, slow-moving traffic and tight schedules are the norm, more and more drivers are taking out their anger and frustration in their vehicles. All right, crowded roads leave little room for error, leading to suspicious and hostility among drivers, and encouraging them to take personally the mistakes of other drivers. Okay. Aggressive driving is the act of operating a motor vehicle in a selfish, bold, or pushy manner, okay, without regards for the rights or safety of others. That's a test question. Again, aggressive driving is the act of operating a motor vehicle in a selfish, bold, or pushy manner without regards for the rights or safety of others. And then road rage is operating a motor vehicle with the intent to do harm to others or physically assaulting a driver or their vehicle. Okay, that's the difference. Aggressive driver, you're bold, pushy, and selfish. Road rage, you have the intent on doing harm to that person or their car. Okay, that is the difference with aggressive and road rage. All right, so how do we not be aggressive drivers? What do we do to not be that aggressive driver? And these are test questions as well. This is a test question as well. How you feel before you even start your vehicle has a lot to do with how stress will affect you while you're driving. Reduce your stress before and while you drive. Listen to easy listening music. Give your drive your full attention. Don't allow yourself to be distracted by talking on your cell phone, eating, etc. Be realistic about your travel time. Expect delays because the traffic because of traffic construction or bad weather, and make allowances. If you're going to be later than you're expected, deal with it. Take a deep breath and accept the delay. Give other drivers the benefit of the doubt. Slow down and keep your following distance reasonable. Don't drive slowly in the left lane of traffic. Avoid gestures. Keep your hands on the wheel. Avoid making any gestures that might anger another driver. Even similarly harmless expressions of irritation like shaking your head. Okay? Be a cautious and courteous driver. If another driver seems to get in front of you, say, "Be my guest." Okay? This response will soon become a habit, and you won't be offended by other drivers' actions. Okay? Ways to not be an aggressive driver. All right, 2.10.3. What do you do if you are confronted by an aggressive driver? First and foremost, make every attempt to get out of their way. Put your pride in the back seat. Don't challenge them by speeding up or attempting to hold your own in your travel lane. Avoid eye contact. Ignore gestures and refuse to react to them. Okay. Report aggressive driving to the appropriate authorities by providing a vehicle description, license plate, license number, location if possible, and if possible, direction of travel. If you have a cell phone and can do it safely, call the police. And if an aggressive driver is involved in a crash further down the road, stop at a safe distance from the crash scene, wait for the police to arrive, and report the driving behavior that you witnessed. Okay? Some things when you're, again, confronted by an aggressive driver. All right? All right, 2.11, driving at night. It is more dangerous. You are at greater risk when you drive at night. Drivers can't see hazards as quickly drivers can't see hazards as quickly as in daylight, so they have less time to respond. Drivers caught by surprise are less able to avoid a crash. 2.11.2 on page 29. I'm going to drop down to toward the bottom where it says, if your driver's license says corrective lenses are required, it is illegal to move a vehicle without using corrective lenses. Avoid using dark or tinted corrective lenses at night, even if you think they will help with glare. Drivers can be blinded for a short time by bright light. It takes time to recover from this blindness. Older drivers are especially bothered by glare. It can take several seconds to recover from glare. Even 2 seconds of glare blindness can be dangerous. A vehicle going 55 miles per hour will travel more than half the distance of a football field during that time. This is a test question. Don't look directly at bright lights when driving. Look at the right side of the road. That is a test question. Again, look at the right side of the road. Watch the sidelines when someone comes toward you who has very bright lights on. Okay. Fatigue and lack of alertness. Drivers may not see hazards as soon or react as quickly, so the chance of a crash is greater. If you are sleepy, the only safe cure is to get off the road and get some sleep. That is the only safe cure. Get off the road and get some sleep. All right, 2.11.3, roadway factors. Poor lighting. In the daytime, there is usually enough light to see well. This is not true at night. Some areas may have bright street lights, but many areas will have poor lighting. On most roads, you will probably have to, on most roads, you will probably have to depend entirely on your headlights. Less lights mean you will not be able to see hazards as well in daytime. Road users who do not have lights are hard to see. I'm going to drop down here where it says drunk drivers. Drunk drivers and drivers under the influence of drugs are a hazard to themselves and to you. Okay. 2.11.4. 2.11.4 is vehicle factors. Okay, vehicle. One moment. All right. At night, your headlights will usually be the main source of your light for you to see by and for others to see you. You can't see nearly as much with your headlights as you see in the daytime. With low beams, you can see ahead about 250 feet, and with high beams, about 350 to 500 feet. You must adjust your speed to keep your stopping distance within your sight distance. This means going slowly enough to be able to stop within the range of your headlights. Otherwise, by the time you see a hazard, you will not have time to stop. Night driving can be very dangerous if you have problems with your headlights. Dirty headlights may give you only half the light they should. This cuts down your ability to see and makes it harder for others to see you. Headlights can be out of adjustment. That's a test question. Headlights can be out of adjustment. If they don't point in the right direction, they won't give you a good view, and they can blind other drivers. Have a qualified person make sure they are adjusted properly. Okay. All right, other lights. In order for you to be able to see easily, to be seen easily, the following must be clean and working properly. We talked about this, of course, when we were doing our pre-trip. Make sure our reflectors are clean, our marker lights, our clearance lights, our tail lights, and our identification lights. Okay, when we do our walk-around inspection, like in step 5, we take something with us and we clean our lenses. All right, turn signals and brake lights. At night, your turn signal and your brake lights are even more important for telling other drivers what you intend to do. Okay, we talked about that earlier, talking about communicating, because that's, of course, how we communicate, with our signal. We signal early, we signal continuously, and then we cancel our signal. That's how we communicate. Make sure you have clean, working turn lenses and stoplights. Windshield and mirrors. It is more important at night than in the daytime to have a clean windshield and clean mirrors. Bright lights at night can cause dirt on your windshield or mirrors to create a glare of its own, blocking your vision or blocking your view. Right? 2.11.5, pre-trip procedures. Make sure you are rested and alert. If you are drowsy, sleep before you drive. Even a nap can save your life and the life of others. If you wear eyeglasses, make sure they are clean and unscratched. Don't wear sunglasses at night. Do a complete pre-trip inspection of your vehicle. Pay attention to checking all lights and reflectors and cleaning them, those you can reach. Then avoid blinding others. Glare from your headlights can cause problems for other drivers coming towards you. They can also bother drivers going in the same direction you are when your lights shine in their rear view mirror. This next one is a test question. Dim your lights before they cause glare for other drivers. Dim your lights within 500 feet of an oncoming vehicle and when following another vehicle within 500 feet. Again, that was a test question. Dim your lights within 500 feet of an oncoming vehicle and when following a vehicle within 500 feet. All right, the next one's talking about glare, avoiding glare from oncoming vehicles. Do not look directly at lights of oncoming vehicles. Look slightly to the right at a right lane or edge marking if available. And we talked about that earlier, and that was definitely a test question. Again, look slightly to the right at a right lane or edge marking if available. If other drivers don't put their low beams on, don't try to get back at them by putting your own high beams on. This increases glare for oncoming drivers and increases the chance of a crash. Okay. All right, use high beams when you can. Okay. Some drivers make the mistake of always using low beams. This seriously cuts down on their ability to see ahead. Use high beams when it's safe and legal to do so. That is definitely a test question that you will see. Use high beams when it is safe and legal to do so. Use them when you are not within 500 feet of an approaching vehicle. Also, don't let the inside of your cab get too bright. This makes it harder for you to see outside. Keep the interior lights off and adjust your instrument lights as low as you can see to be able to, as long as you can to still be able to see or read the gauges. If you get sleepy, stop at the nearest safe place. People often don't realize how close they are to falling asleep, even when their eyelids are falling shut. If you look sleepy or you just feel sleepy, stop driving. You are in a very dangerous condition. The only safe cure is to get some sleep. All right. So next section we're going to talk about is driving in a fog. Driving in a fog. Fog can occur at any time. Fog on highways can be extremely dangerous. Fog is often unexpected and visibility can deteriorate rapidly. The best advice for driving in fog is don't. It is preferable that you pull off the road into a rest area or a truck stop until visibility is better. If you must drive, be sure to consider the following. Obey all fog-related warning signs. Slow down before you enter the fog. Use your low beam headlights and fog lights for best visibility, even in the daytime. And be alert for other drivers who may have forgotten to turn on their lights. Turn on your four-way flashers. This will give vehicles approaching you from behind a quicker opportunity to notice your vehicle. Watch for vehicles on the side of the roadway. Seeing taillights or headlights in front of you may not be a true indication of where the road is ahead of you. The vehicle may not be on the road at all. Use roadside highway reflectors as guides to determine how the road may curve ahead of you. Listen for traffic that you cannot see. Avoid passing other vehicles. Don't stop alongside the road unless absolutely necessary. That was driving in fog. All right, driving in winter. Okay. Make sure your vehicle is ready before driving in winter weather. You should make a regular vehicle inspection, paying extra attention to the following items. Your coolant level and your antifreeze levels. Okay, make sure that those are filled up at the levels that they should be. Defrost and heating equipment. Okay, you want to make sure that the defroster actually works. right? Your wet wipers and your washers, make sure that the blades are in good condition, okay, and that you have windshield washer antifreeze to prevent freezing. Your tires, of course, you want to make sure you have enough tread on your tires. We talked about that, right? You should have at least 4 32-inch tread depth on every major groove on your front tires and 2 32-inch on other tires. More would be better. Okay, use a gauge to determine if you have enough enough tread for safe driving. Of course, you want to make sure that your lights and your reflectors are clean. Lights and reflectors are especially important during bad weather. And then your exhaust system. Your exhaust system leaks are especially dangerous when cab ventilation may be poor. Okay, loose connectors could permit poisonous carbon monoxide to leak into your vehicle. Carbon monoxide gas will cause you to be sleepy. In large enough amounts, it can kill you. Okay. All right. Continuing on in driving in winter, 2.13. See, 2.13.2, slippery surfaces, again, page 31. Drive slowly and smoothly on slippery roads. It is very slippery, and if it is very slippery, you shouldn't drive at all. Stop at the first safe place. Okay. Start gently and smoothly. When first starting, get out and feel the road. Don't hurry. Checking for ice. Check for ice on the road, especially bridges and overpasses. A lack of spray from other vehicles indicate ice has formed on the road. Okay, adjust your turning and your braking to conditions. Okay, make turns as gently as possible. Don't brake any harder than necessary, and don't use the engine brake or speed retarder. Because we talked about that, right? When we turn the retarders off, when the roads are wet, they're icy, you turn those retarders off because you can possibly skid. You need to adjust your speed control. Don't pass slower vehicles unless necessary. Go slowly and watch far enough ahead to keep a steady speed. And adjust space to conditions. Don't drive alongside other vehicles. We've talked about that before. Keep a longer following distance, okay? So increase your following distance, right? Now let's talk about wet brakes. Okay, wet brakes. When driving in heavy rain or deep standing water, your brakes will get wet. Water in the brakes can cause the brakes to be weak, to apply unevenly, or grab. John, that is definitely a test question. Again, water in the brakes can cause the brakes to be weak, to apply unevenly, or grab. It's a definite test question. This can cause lack of brake power, wheel lockups, pulling to one side or the other, and jackknife if you pull a trailer. Avoid driving through deep puddles or flooding water, if possible. If it's not possible, slow down and place the transmission into a low gear. Okay. Gently put on the brakes. This presses the lining against the brake drums or disc and keeps the mud, slits, sand, and water from getting in. Increase engine RPM and cross the water while keeping light pressure on the brakes. When out of the water, maintain light pressure on the brakes from a short distance to heat them up and dry them out. Make a test stop when safe to do so. Check behind to make sure no one is following, then apply the brakes to be sure that they work well. If not, dry them out further. Okay, and it says caution. Do not apply too much brake pressure and accelerator at the same time, or you can overheat brake drums and linings. That's a test question. Okay, again, do not apply too much brake pressure and accelerator at the same time, or you can overheat brake drums and linings. All right, 2.14.1. So we talked about driving, of course, in fog, driving in winter weather. Now we're going to talk about driving in hot weather. All right, driving in hot weather. All right, vehicle checks. Do a normal vehicle inspection, but pay special attention to the following items. Your tires. Check the tire mounting and air pressure. All right, so in hot weather, this is a test question. In hot weather, inspect the tires every 2 hours or every 100 miles when driving in very hot weather. Air pressure increases with temperature. Do not let out the air pressure. Do not let the air out, or the pressure will be too low when the tires cool off. If a tire is too hot, remain stopped until the tire cools off. Otherwise, the tire may blow or catch on fire. Right. Engine oil. The engine oil helps keep the engine cool as well as lubricating it. Make sure there is enough engine oil. Okay. If you have oil temperature gauge, make sure the temperature is within the proper range when you are driving. Then talking about engine coolant. Before starting out, make sure the engine coolant system has enough water and antifreeze according to the manufacturer. All right, antifreeze helps the engine under hot conditions as well as cold conditions. When driving, check the water temperature or coolant temperature gauge from time to time. Make sure it remains in the normal range. All right, let's see, I'm going to drop down a little bit where it says, never remove the radiator cap or any part of the pressurized system until the system has cooled. Steam and boiling water can spray under pressure and cause severe burns. If you can touch the radiator cap with your bare hand, it is probably cool enough to open. If coolant has to be added to a system without a recovery tank or an overflow tank, follow these steps. So you shut the engine off, you wait until the engine has cooled, you protect your hand with a glove or a thick cloth, turn the radiator cap slowly to the first stop, which releases the pressure seal. Step back while the pressure is released from the cooling system. When all pressure has been released, press down on the cap and turn it further and then you can remove it. Visually check your levels of coolant and add more if necessary. Okay, replace the cap, turn all the way to the closed position. All right. Oops. All right, so let's jump over to 2.14 under driving. 2.14. It says, watch for bleeding tar. Watch for bleeding tar. Tar in the road pavement frequently rises to the surface of very hot weather. Spots where tar bleeds to the surface are very slippery. Okay, I think that is a test question. Okay, watch for bleeding tar. Okay, tar is very slippery. And go slowly enough to prevent overheating. High speed, this is a test question. High speeds create more heat for tires and the engine. In desert conditions, the heat may build up to the point where it is dangerous. The heat will increase chances of tire failure or even a fire and engine failure. Okay, that is definitely a test question. High speeds create more heat for tires and the engine. All right. All right, 2.15, railroad highway crossings on page 32. Okay, railroad highway crossings. Railroad highway grade crossings are a special kind of intersection where the roadway crosses train tracks. These crossings are always dangerous. Every such crossing must be approached with the expectation that a train is coming. Okay. 2.15.1 types of crossings. All right, so you have your passive crossing and you have your active crossing. Okay, so your passive crossing is this type of crossing does not have any type of traffic control device. The decision to stop or proceed rests entirely in your hands. Passive crossings require you to recognize the crossing, search for any train using the tracks, and decide if there is sufficient clear space to cross safely. Passive crossings have a yellow circular advance warning sign, pavement marking, and crossbucks to assist you in recognizing a crossing. Okay. Then you have your active crossing. This type of crossing has a traffic control device installed at the crossing to regulate traffic at the crossing. These active devices include flashing red lights with or without bells and flashing red lights with bells and gates. Okay, so those are the difference with your passive, totally in your control as to when you cross the tracks, and of course your active, and it has of course the traffic control device. All right, 2.15.2. It says active advanced warning signals. The advanced warning signs tell you to slow down, look and listen for a train, and be prepared to stop on the tracks, even if a train is coming. Okay. Pavement markings mean the same as the advanced warning sign. They consist of an X with the letters RR and no passing marks on 2 lanes. Okay, then you have your crossbucks sign. This sign marks the grade crossing. It requires you yield to the right of the way to the train. If there is no white line painted on the pavement, you must stop the bus before the crossbuck sign. When the cross crosses over more than one set of tracks, a sign below the crossbuck indicates the number of tracks. Okay. All right, 2.15.3. First one says never race a train to a crossing. Okay, never attempt to race a train to a crossing. 9 times out of 10, you'll always lose, right? Reduce your speed. Speed must be reduced in accordance with your ability to see approaching trains in any direction, and speed must be held to the point where it will permit you to stop short of the tracks in case a stop is necessary. All right, so don't expect to hear a train. Because of noise inside your vehicle, you cannot expect to hear the train horn until the train is dangerously close. And don't rely on signals. Okay, you should not rely solely upon the presence of a warning signal, gates, or flagmen to warn of an approaching train. Be especially alert in the crossings that do not have gates or flashing red lights. Double tracks require double check. Okay, double tracks require a double check. Remember that a train on one track may hide a train on another track. Look both ways before crossing. After one train has cleared a crossing, be sure that no other trains are near before starting across the tracks. Okay, it typically takes a tractor trailer unit at least 14 seconds to clear a track, more than 15 seconds to clear a double track. 14 seconds to clear a single, more than 15 to clear a double. And that's for a tractor trailer. All right, let's see here. 2.15.4. A full stop is required at grade crossings whenever the nature of the cargo makes a stop mandatory under state or federal regulations. Such a stop is otherwise required by law. When stopping, be sure to check for traffic behind you. When stopping gradually, use a pull-out lane if available, and turn on your four-way emergency flashers. Okay, 2.15.5, crossing the tracks. Railroad crossings with steep approaches can cause your unit to hang up on the tracks. Never permit traffic controls to trap you in a position where you have to stop on the tracks. Be sure you can get all the way across the tracks before you start across. Okay, and we just mentioned this one. It typically takes tractor trailer 14 seconds to clear a single track and more than 15 to clear a double. And this next one is a definite test question. Do not shift gears while crossing railroad tracks. That's a test question. Again, do not shift gears while crossing railroad tracks. All right, 2.15.6, special situations. Be aware, these trailers can get stuck on raised crossings. So you have your low slug unit, low boy is a car carrier, moving van, or a possum belly livestock trailer. If for any reason you get stuck on a track, get out of the vehicle and away from the tracks. Check sign postage or a signaling house at the crossing for emergency notification information, and call 911. Okay, first and foremost, get out of that vehicle, right? All right. All right. 2.16. We mentioned this when we were talking about earlier in this chapter. We were talking about selecting your speed back in 2.6.6. Looks like on page 25, 2.6.6. We were talking about selecting our speed on downgrades. Okay, so now we're going to talk about it a little bit more. And it says mountain driving. In mountain driving, gravity plays a major role. On any upgrade, gravity slows you down. The steeper the grade, the longer the grade, and/or the heavier the load, the more you will have to use a lower grade to climb hills or mountains. In coming down long, steep downgrades, gravity causes the speed on your vehicle to increase. You must select an appropriate safe speed, then use a low gear and proper braking technique. Okay. Right, so it says, you must go slowly enough so your brakes can hold you back without getting too hot. This next one is a test question. If brakes become too hot, they may start to fade. Okay, that is a definite test question. This means you have to apply them harder and harder to get the same stopping power. If you continue to use your brakes hard, they can keep fading until you cannot slow down or stop at all. That's a definite test question. All of that's a test, that last paragraph. You'll see that as test question. All right. All right. Selecting a safe speed. We talked about that before. Selecting a safe speed. It says, your most important consideration is to select a speed that is not too fast for the 5 following bullet points. The total weight of the vehicle and the cargo, the length of the grade, the steepness of the grade, the road conditions, and the weather. Those are the information, the components of selecting the speed to get down a mountain. Okay, the total weight of the vehicle and the cargo, the length of the grade, steepness of the grade, the road conditions, and the weather. That's what you would take into consideration. It says you must use, this is a test question, you must use the braking effect of the engine as the principal way of controlling your speed. Again, you have to use the braking effect of the engine as the principal way of controlling your speed. The braking effect of the engine is greatest when it is near the governed RPM and the transmission is in the lower gears. Okay, save your brakes so you will be able to slow or stop as required by road and traffic conditions. Save your brakes. All right, 2.16.2. Select the right gear before starting down the grade. Of course, again, we talked about this before, right? Shift the transmission to a low gear before starting down the grade. Okay, before starting down that grade. Do not try to downshift after your speed has already built up. This is a test question. The sentence you will see. You will not be able to shift into a lower gear. That is a test question. Again, do not try to downshift after your speed has already built up. You will not be able to shift into a lower gear. You may not be able to get it back into any gear at all. And I'm sorry. You may not even be able to get back into any gear, and all engine braking effect will be lost. Okay, forcing an automatic transmission into a lower gear at high speeds can cause damage to the transmission and also lead to loss of all engine braking effect. Okay. All right. And it says, with older trucks, a good rule for choosing gears is to use the same gear going down a hill that you would to get up the hill. However, new trucks have low friction parts and streamlined shapes for fuel economy. They may also have more powerful engines. This means they can go up a hill higher in a higher gear and have less friction and air drag to hold them back going downhill. I'm sorry, let me read that again. This means they can go up hills in higher gears and have less friction and air drag to hold them back going down hills. For that reason, drivers of modern trucks may have to use lower gears to go down a hill than they would to go up that same hill. You should know what is right for your vehicle. All right, let's talk about 2.16. We talked about this already before, but we're going to talk about it a little just briefly again. Brakes are designed so brake shoes or pads rub against the brake drum or disc to slow the vehicle. Braking creates heat, but brakes are designed to take a lot of heat. However, brakes can fade or fail from excessive heat caused by using them too much and not relying on the engine braking effect. Then the next sentence is a test question. Brake fade is also affected by adjustment. That is a definite test question. Brake fade is also affected by adjustment. Okay, to safely control a vehicle, every brake must do its share of work. Brakes out of adjustment will stop doing their share brakes out of adjustment will stop doing their share before those that are in adjustment. The other brakes can then overheat and fade, and there will not be enough braking available to control the vehicle. Brakes can get out of adjustment quickly, especially when they are used a lot. Also, brake linings wear faster when they are hot. Therefore, brake adjustment must be checked frequently. And that's talking about brake fading and failure. Very important. You'll see more than one question talking about brake fade and brake failure. Okay, and that's why it's repeated. It's repeated. You'll see they'll talk about brake fading and failure again. If I'm not mistaken, when we talk about in air brakes, we'll talk about it again in school buses. So brake fading and failure is very important. 2.16.4, proper braking technique. All right, remember, the use of brakes in a long and or steep downgrade is only a supplement to the braking effect of the engine. Okay, that's very important. The use of brakes in a long and or steep downgrade is only a supplement to the braking effect of the engine. Once the vehicle is in the proper low gear, the following are the proper braking techniques. Okay, so again, before you start that, the first thing you want to do, of course, we talked about that. You need to select your safe speed, right? Select your safe speed. So you know that the safe speed, selecting the safe speed, the total weight of the vehicle and the cargo, the length of the grade, steepness of the grade, road conditions, and the weather, those things taken into consideration. It says apply the brakes just hard enough to feel a definite slowdown. Okay, when your speed has reduced to approximately 5 miles below your safe speed, that speed that you determined with those five criteria, right? Below your safe speed, release the brakes. Okay, when your speed has increased back up to your safe speed, repeat steps 1 and 2 again. So here's an example. It said if your safe speed is 40 miles per hour, so I took into consideration the total weight of my vehicle and cargo, the length of my grade, steepness of my grade, the road conditions, and the weather. I took all of that into consideration, and I said for me to get safely down this mountain, I need to drive 40 miles per hour. I do not need to let my speed go over 40 miles per hour. All right. So my speed is 40 miles per hour. You would not apply the brakes until you reach your speed of 40 miles per hour. You now apply the brakes hard enough to gradually reduce your speed to 35 miles per hour. And then you release the brakes and you repeat this process until you reach the end of your downgrade, until you get to the end of that mountain, right? Until you get to the bottom of I won't say the end, to the bottom of the mountain. So again, you select your safe speed. My safe speed is 40. Then once your speed gets to 40 miles per hour, I put my brake on firmly to where I get a definite slowdown to 35 miles per hour. Then I release it, go back up to 40, brake down to 35, and I do that all the way down the mountain. That is using the braking effect of the engine. You're not using your brakes. You're not going to have brake failure. You're not going to have brake fade, right? You're using the braking effect of the engine. Okay. So it also says here to know escape ramps location on your route. Signs show drivers where ramps are located. Escape ramps save lives, equipment, and cargo. Okay, that is just in case you do have brake failure, right? Make sure that you know that there is an escape ramp somewhere on your route, okay? And most mountains have them, right? So where if you need to use it, you'll be able to safely pull off and stop that vehicle. All right. All right, 2.17, driving emergencies. Traffic emergencies occur when two vehicles are about to collide. Vehicle emergencies occur when tires, brakes, or other critical parts fail. Following the safe practices in this manual can help prevent emergencies. But if an emergency does happen, your chance of avoiding a crash depends upon how well you take action. All right, so it's 2.17.1, steering to avoid a crash. Stopping is not always the safest thing to do in an emergency. That was a test question. Stopping is not always the safest thing to do in an emergency. When you don't have enough room to stop, you may have to steer away from what's ahead. This next one is a test question. Remember, you can almost always turn to miss an obstacle more quickly than you can stop. Okay? However, top-heavy vehicles and tractors with multiple trailers may flip. Okay, but remember, you can almost always turn to miss an obstacle more quickly than you can stop. All right, and of course, we keep both hands on the steering wheel. In order to turn quickly, you must have a firm grip on the steering wheel with both hands. The best way to have both hands on the wheel if there is emergency is to keep them there at all times. And of course, they need to be at 9 and 3 o'clock. So how do we steer? How do we turn quickly and safely? A quick turn can be made safely if it's done the right way. Here are some points that safe drivers use. Okay, so do not apply the brakes while you are turning. It is very easy to lock your wheels while turning. If this happens, you may skid out of control. And don't turn any more than needed to clear whatever's in your way. That's a test question. The more sharply you turn, the greater the chance of a skid or a rollover. Again, don't turn any more than needed to clear whatever is in your way. And be prepared to counter steer, another test question. That is, to turn the wheel back in the other direction once you passed whatever was in your path. Unless you are prepared to counter steer, you won't be able to do it quickly enough. You should think of an emergency steering or a counter steering as two parts of one driving action. All right, so where should you steer? If an oncoming driver has drifted into your lane, a move to your right is best. That is a definite test question. Again, oncoming drivers is drifting into your lane, a move to your right is best. If the driver realizes what has happened, the natural response will be to return to his or her own lane. Okay, if someone is blocking your path, the best direction is to steer. To steer will depend on the situation. If you have been using your mirrors, you will know which lane is empty and can be safely used. If the shoulder is clear, going right may be the best. No one is likely to be driving on the shoulder, but someone may be passing you on the left. You will know if you've been using your mirrors. If you are blocked on both sides, again, the best move is to go right. At least you won't force anyone in the opposite traffic into a possible head-on collision. Right? Then leaving the road. In some emergencies, you may have to drive off the road. It may be less risky than facing a collision with another vehicle. Most shoulders are strong enough to support the weight of a large vehicle and therefore offer available escape ramp. Here are some guidelines if you do leave the road. This first one is a test question. Avoid braking. If possible, avoid using the brakes until your speed has dropped down to 20 miles per hour. That is a definite test question. Okay, avoid using your brakes until your speed has dropped to below 20 miles per hour. Then brake very gently to avoid skidding on loose surface. Okay, to avoid skidding, brake very gently. The next one is a definite test question. Keep one set of wheels on the pavement if possible. That is a test question. Okay, keep one set of wheels on the pavement. This helps to maintain control. The next one is a definite test question. Stay on the shoulder. If the shoulder is clear, stay on it until your vehicle has come to a stop. Okay, signal and check the mirrors before pulling onto the road. Okay, then returning to the road. If you are forced to return to the road before you stop, use the following procedure. Hold the wheel tightly and turn sharply enough to get right back on the road to safety. That's a test question. And I remember it being, let's see, hold the wheel tightly and turn sharply enough to get back onto the road safely. And it seemed like they worded it like, hold the wheel tightly and turn, like it's like you turn slowly to get back onto the road. But here it clearly says turn sharply enough to get right back on the road safely. Okay, don't try to edge gradually back on the road. If you do, your tires might grab unexpectedly and you could lose control. All right, so just make sure you keep that in mind. You turn sharply enough to get right back on the road. All right, when both front tires are on the paved surface, counter steer immediately. The two turns should be made as a single steer counter move. Okay, so you turn sharply to get back on the road, and then you counter steer, right, to straighten that vehicle up. All right, 2.17.2, how to stop safely, how to stop quickly and safely. All right, if somebody suddenly pulls out in front of you, your natural response, of course, is to hit the brakes. This is a good response if there's enough distance to stop and you use your brakes correctly. You should brake in a way, this is a test question, you should brake in a way that will keep your vehicle in a straight line and allow you to turn if it becomes necessary. You can use the control braking and the stab braking method. But again, you should be braking a way that keeps your vehicle in a straight line. Okay, so the control braking, right? So first one is control braking. With this method, you apply the brakes as hard as you can without locking the wheels. Keep steering wheel movement very small when doing this. Okay, again, that's controlled braking, right? Then you have stab braking. So stab braking is you apply your brakes all the way. Release the brakes when the wheels lock up. As soon as the wheels start rolling, apply the brakes again. Apply the brakes fully again. Okay. So again, apply the brakes all the way. Release the brakes when the wheels lock up. And as soon as the wheels start rolling, apply the brakes again. That is called stab braking. And you repeat it until you slow down or stop. This keeps it to where the vehicle, your goal is, again, you're braking in a way to keep your vehicle in a straight line. Okay. All right. The next one says, don't jam on the brakes. Emergency braking does not mean pushing down on the brake pedal as hard as you can. Okay, that is not emergency braking. This will only keep the wheels locked up. It will cause a skid. Okay, if the wheels are skidding, you cannot control the vehicle. All right, let's talk about brake failure. Of course, we've talked about this a couple of times before, right? Brakes kept in good condition rarely fail. Most hydraulic brake failure occurs from one or two reasons. This is a test question. Again, most hydraulic brake failure occurs for one or two reasons. Loss of hydraulic pressure and brake fade on long hills. Okay, loss of hydraulic pressure. When the system won't build up pressure, the brake pedal will feel spongy or it goes all the way to the floor. Here are some things you can do. First thing you need to do is downshift. Putting the vehicle in a lower gear will help slow the vehicle. Okay, downshift. Pump the brake. Definitely pump the brake. All right. Sometimes pumping the brake will generate enough hydraulic pressure to stop that vehicle. Okay, again, these are just for hydraulic brakes. Use your parking brake. Okay, parking or emergency brake is separate from the hydraulic brake system. Therefore, it can be used to slow the vehicle. However, be sure to press the release button or pull the release lever at the same time you use the emergency brake so you can adjust the brake pressure and keep the wheels from locking up. The next thing you want to do is find an escape ramp. While slowing a vehicle, look for an escape ramp, an open field, a side street, an escape ramp. Turning uphill is a good way to slow and stop a vehicle. All right, your best hope is an escape ramp. If there is one, there will be a sign telling you about it. Make sure you use it. If there is not one available, take the least hazardous escape route you can, such as an open field or a side road that flattens out or turns uphill. Okay, but that is a picture of what an escape ramp looks like. All right. 2.17.4, tire failure. Right, tire failure. Recognize tire failure. Quickly knowing you have a tire failure will let you have more time to react. Having just a few extra seconds to remember what you're supposed to do can help. The major signs of tire failure are, the first one is sound. You hear that loud bang of a blowout and it's easily recognized sign. Because it can take a few seconds for your vehicle to react, you might think it was some other vehicle. But anytime you hear a tire blow, you'd be safest to assume it's yours. Okay? If you hear it blow, it's probably your own. You feel that vibration. If the vehicle thumps or vibrates heavily, it may be a sign that one of your tires has gone flat. With the rear tire, that may be the only sign you get. And then, if the steering feels heavy, it's probably a sign that one of the front tires has failed. Sometimes failure of a rear tire will cause the vehicle to slide back and forth or fishtail. However, dual rear tires usually prevent this. Okay. All right, so how do you respond to a tire failure? When a tire fails, your vehicle is in danger. You must immediately hold the steering wheel firm, which you should be already, right? If a front tire fails, it can twist the steering wheel out of your hand. So you should already have a firm grip of your steering wheel. Stay off the brakes if possible. It's natural to want to brake in an emergency. However, braking when a tire has failed could cause loss of control. All right. Unless you're about to run into something, stay off the brakes until the vehicle has slowed down. All right. And then get out and check the tire. After you come to a stop, get out and check. Okay. Get out and check and see if you have a flat tire. All right, 2.18. I'm going to talk about anti-lock brakes. We've talked about this a little bit before, not in detail, but let's get into it. So, anti-lock brakes is a computerized system that keeps your wheels from locking up during hard brake applications. Anti-lock brakes is an addition to your normal brakes. That's a test question. Again, anti-lock brakes is an addition to your normal brakes. Okay, it's an addition. It does not decrease or increase your normal braking capacity. Anti-lock brakes only activates when wheels are about to lock up. Okay, that's when they're activated, when your wheels are about to lock up. All right, ABS does not necessarily shorten your stopping distance, but it does help to keep the vehicle under control during hard braking. Okay, during hard braking. All right, so how do they work? Sensors detect potential wheel lockup. An electronic control unit will then decrease brake pressure to avoid wheel lockup. Brake pressure is adjusted to provide the maximum braking without danger of lockup. Anti-lock brakes work far faster than the driver can respond to potential wheel lockup. At all other times, the brake system will operate normally. All right, 2.18, vehicles required to have anti-lock brakes. The Department of Transportation requires that anti-lock brakes be on truck tractors with air brakes built after March 1997, other air brake vehicles built on or after March 1st, 1998, hydraulically braked trucks and buses with a gross vehicle weight of 10,000 pounds or more, and many commercial vehicles built after these dates have been voluntarily equipped with anti-lock brakes. All right, and of course, our school buses definitely have anti-lock brakes. All right, 2.18.3, how do you know if the vehicle has anti-lock brakes? Tractors, trucks, and buses have a yellow ABS malfunction lamp on the instrument panel. Trailers with a yellow ABS malfunction lamp on the left side, either on the front or the rear. As a system check on newer vehicles, the malfunction lamp comes on at the start of the bulb check, then goes out quickly. On older systems, the lamp could stay on until you're driving over 4 or 5 miles per hour. If the lamp stays on after the bulb check or goes on after you are underway, you may have lost ABS control. Okay, you may have lost that control. All right, so how does it help you? When you brake hard on slippery surfaces in a vehicle without ABS, your wheels may lock up. When your steering wheel locks up, you lose steering control. When your other wheels lock up, you may skid, jackknife, or even spin the vehicle. Anti-lock brakes help you avoid wheel lockup and maintain control. You may or may not be able to stop faster than ABS, but you should be able to steer around an obstacle while braking and avoid skids caused by overbraking. So how does it help you? Here in the picture, helps you to avoid a jackknife. Right? All right, 2.18.5. And I have this indicated as a test question. I actually found this as a test question. Having ABS on only the tractor, only the trailer, or even only one axle still gives you more control over the vehicle during braking. Brake normally. That's a test question that, like I said again, it's not indicated here as a test question, but I found it as when I was going through the questions that DDS provides. So that's a definite test question that you could possibly see. All right, 2.18.6, braking with ABS. When you brake a vehicle with ABS, you should brake as you always have. That's a test question. Again, when you brake with a vehicle with ABS, you should brake as you always have. In other words, use only the braking force necessary to safely stop and stay in control. Brake the same way regardless of whether you have ABS on the bus, tractor, or trailer, or both. As you slow down, monitor your tractor and trailer and back off the brakes, okay, to stay in control. There is only one exception to this procedure. If you drive a straight truck or a combination with working ABS on all axles, in an emergency stop, you can fully apply the brakes. Okay, fully apply the brakes. All right. I think I skipped one. Here we go. 2.18.8, some safety reminders. Anti-lock brakes won't allow you to drive faster, follow more closely, or drive less carefully. They won't prevent power or turning skids. They should prevent brake-induced skids or jackknives, but not those caused by spinning the drive wheel or going too fast in a turn. ABS does not necessarily shorten stopping distance, but it does help maintain vehicle control, but not always shorten stopping distance. ABS won't necessarily won't increase or decrease ultimate stopping power. Okay, it's an add-on to your normal brakes. It's not a replacement. ABS won't change the way you normally brake. Under normal brake conditions, your vehicle will stop as it always have. It won't compensate for bad brakes or poor brake maintenance. Remember, the best vehicle safety feature is still a safe driver. Drive so you never need to use your ABS. And remember, if you need it, ABS could help prevent a serious crash. All right, 2.19, skid control and recovery. A skid happens whenever the tires lose their grip on the road. Okay, this is caused by one of four ways: overbraking, oversteering, overacceleration, and driving too fast. Right, so overbraking, braking too hard and locking up the wheels. Okay, and oversteering, turning the wheel more sharply than the vehicle can turn. And overacceleration, supplying too much power to the drive wheel, causing them to spin. And then driving too fast. Most serious skids result from driving too fast for road conditions. Drivers who adjust their driving to conditions don't overaccelerate and don't have to overbrake or oversteer from too much speed. All right, 2.19.1, page 35. By far, the most common skid is one in which the rear wheels lose traction through excessive braking or acceleration. That is indicated as a test question. Again, by far, common skid is one in which the rear wheels lose traction through excessive braking and or acceleration. Going back up to 2.19, I didn't mention that that was a test question. I don't think I did, but it is. Again, so skids of over braking, over steering, over acceleration, and driving too fast. Okay, they happen again. Those happen whenever the tires lose their grip on the road. That was definitely a test question, and I apologize. All right, so moving back over to 2.19.1. Rear wheel braking skids occur when the rear wheels lock. Because lock wheels have less traction than rolling wheels, the rear wheels usually slide sideways in an attempt to catch up with the front wheels. In a bus or a straight truck, the vehicle will slide sideways in a spin out. Okay, in a spin out. And that was a test question as well. Rear wheel braking skids occur when the rear brake drive wheels lock. Okay, definite test question. All right, 2.19.2. 2.19.2. So correcting a drive wheel braking skid. Right? This is indicated as a test question. Stop braking. Okay. This will let the rear wheels roll again and keep the rear wheels from skidding. Okay. First thing, just stop braking. Right? Then counter steer. As a vehicle turns back on course, it has a tendency to keep on turning unless you turn the steering wheel quickly to the other way. You may find yourself skidding in the opposite direction. Okay. And again, that was a definite test question. Stop braking and counter steer. All right, front wheel skid. Front wheel skid. Driving too fast for conditions causes most front wheel skids. Other causes include a lack of tread on the front tires and cargo loaded, so not enough weight is on the front axle. Okay. That was a test question. Again, driving too fast for conditions causes most front wheel skids. Other causes include lack of tread on the front tire and cargo loaded, so not enough weight is on the front axle. All right, this next one is also a test question. In a front wheel skid, the front end tends to go in a straight line regardless of how much you turn the steering wheel. Again, in a front wheel skid, the front end tends to go in a straight line regardless of how much you turn that steering wheel. When a front wheel skid occurs, the only way to stop the skid is to let the vehicle slow down. Stop turning and or braking so hard. Slow down as quickly as possible without skidding. Okay, without skidding. All right. All right, 220 accident procedures. When you're in an accident and not seriously hurt, you need to act to prevent further damage or injury. The basic steps to be taken at any accident are to protect the area, notify the authorities, and care for the injured. Again, you need to protect the area, notify authorities, and care for the injured. Okay, so the first, in protecting the area, the first thing you need to do in an accident scene is to keep another accident from happening in the same spot. Okay, so to prevent an accident is if your vehicle is involved in the accident, try and get it off the side of the road. Now I know they're giving tickets for that, right? If that vehicle is drivable and you're blocking traffic, you'll get a ticket when that policeman gets there, because if you're able to get that vehicle off the side of the road, you need to move it off the side of the road, okay? This helps prevent an accident and allows traffic to move. If you're stopping to help, park away from the accident. The area immediately around the accident will be needed for emergency vehicles. Put on your flashers, okay? Set out reflective triangles to warn other traffic. Make sure other drivers can see them in the time to avoid the accident, okay? So we talked about that, right? Something coming in that direction. If it is a divided highway or undivided highway, where we put those reflectors at, right? And of course, the next thing you want to do is to notify the authorities. Okay, if you have a cell phone or a CB, call for assistance before you get out of your vehicle. Okay, call for assistance before you get out of your vehicle. Actually, that's a test question. If not, wait until the accident scene has been properly protected, then phone or send someone to the phone to phone the police. Okay, try to determine where you are so you can give the exact location. All right, but the key thing in that one is, if you have a cell phone, call for assistance before you get out of the vehicle. Okay, and then care for the injured. All right, caring for the injured. If a qualified person at the accident is helping the injured, you need to stay out of their way unless they ask you for assistance. Otherwise, do the best you can to help any injured parties. Okay, so things you'd want to do is you don't want to move a severely injured person unless the danger of a fire or passing traffic makes it necessary. And then you need to stop bleeding by applying direct pressure. And the last one, and you will see this as a test question, keep the injured person warm. So what I saw as a test question is, I think it said something about keeping the injured person cool. I think they used the word cool, C-O-O-L. So definitely a test question. Keep that injured person warm, okay? All right, 2.21.1, causes of fires. Okay, these are definitely test questions. Truck fires can cause damage and injury. Learn the cause of fires and how to prevent them. Know what to do with to extinguish a fire. Okay, so the following are some causes of vehicle fires. Again, these are vehicle fires. An after accident. So right after you had an accident, okay, there could be spilled fuel, and there can be someone could possibly have the proper use of flares. Okay, so maybe you don't have reflective triangles. Maybe you have flares. All right, so it could be an improper use of those flares that are put out. Then your tires. Okay, we talked about underinflated tires and duals that touch. Okay, that's a major cause of fire. Underinflated tires and duals that touch. The next one is electrical system. Short circuits due to damaged insulation, loose connections. Okay. Then fuel. Drivers smoking, improper fueling, loose fuel connections. Right. And then cargo. Flammable cargo, improperly sealed or loaded cargo, poor ventilation. Right. Again, those are some possible causes of fires, vehicle fires. All right, fire prevention. Okay, again, of course, you should be doing a vehicle inspection, right? Make a complete vehicle inspection of the electrical, fuel, and exhaust systems, tires, and cargo. Be sure to check that the fire extinguisher is charged. And while you're en route, you should be checking your tires, your wheels, your truck body for signs of heat whenever you stop during a trip. In addition to that, you should also be using your mirrors, right? We talked about that before as well. You should be using your mirrors that's a good indication if maybe you have a tire fire. You should be able to see your tires using your mirrors. And then follow safe procedures. Follow correct safety procedures for fueling the vehicle, using brakes, handling flares, and other activities that can cause a fire. Okay. 2.21.3, 2.21.3. I'm on page 37. All right, firefighting. Okay, firefighting. Know how the fire extinguisher works. Study the instructions printed on the extinguisher before you need it. Okay, make sure you know how to use it now, right? Here are some procedures to follow in case of a fire. Pull off the road, first and foremost. That is a definite test question. Again, firefighting, pull off the road, right? Park in an open area away from buildings, trees, brush, and other vehicles or anything that might catch fire. And don't pull into a service station. Definitely don't want to pull into a service station. Okay. Notify emergency services of your problem and your location. Right. You want to keep the fire from spreading. Okay. With an engine fire, turn off the engine as soon as you can. Don't open the hood if you can avoid it. That is the worst thing you can do. Shoot foam through the levers, radiator, or from the vehicle's underside. Just like in the picture, right? He has a tire fire. He's pulled off to the side of the road, right? And he's shooting them underneath, right? He did not open the hood. Don't open the hood. For a cargo fire in a van or bus trailer, keep the doors shut, especially if your cargo contains hazardous materials. Opening the van door will supply the fire with oxygen and can cause it to burn very quickly. Okay. All right, extinguish the fire. Here are some rules to follow in putting out a fire. All right. These are both test questions, these next two. When using the extinguisher, stay as far away from the fire as possible. A definite test question. And then aim at the source or the base of the fire, not in the flames. Again, another definite test question. And then you need to make sure you use the right fire extinguisher. Okay, use the right fire extinguisher. So BC, that type of fire extinguisher is designed to work on electrical fires and burning liquids. Again, BC is for electrical fires and burning liquids. ABC is for wood, paper, and cloth. Okay, that is definitely a test question. Okay, BC, electrical fires and burning liquid. ABC is for wood, paper, and cloth. Water can be used on wood, paper, and cloth as well. But you do not use water on electrical fires. It can cause a shock, or a gasoline fire. It will spread the flames. Okay, you do not use water, again, on an electrical fire or a gas fire. Now, you can use water on a burning tire. Okay, a burning tire must be cooled, so lots of water may be required. All right, this next one is a test question. Position yourself upwind. Let the wind carry the extinguisher to the fire. Definitely a test question. Position yourself upwind. All right. All right, 2.22, alcohol, other drugs, and driving, page 38. Okay, page 38. People who drink alcohol are involved in traffic accidents resulting in over 20,000 deaths every year. Alcohol impairs muscle coordination, reaction time, depth perception, and night vision. It also affects parts of the brain that control judgment and inhibition. I'm not pronouncing that correctly. Inhibition. For some people, one drink is all it takes to show signs of impairment. How alcohol works. Okay. Alcohol goes directly into the bloodstream and is carried to the brain. After passing through the brain, A small percentage is removed in urine, perspiration, by breathing, while the rest is carried to the liver. The liver can only process 1/3 of an ounce per hour, which is considerably less than the alcohol in a standard drink. This is a fixed rate, so only time, that's a test question, only time, not black coffee or a cold shower, will sober you up. If you have drinks faster than your body can get rid of, you will have more alcohol in your body, and your driving will be more affected. The blood alcohol concentration commonly measures the amount of alcohol in your body. All of the following drinks contain the same amount of alcohol: a 12-ounce glass of beer, a 5-ounce glass of 12% wine, or 1.5-ounce shot of 80 proof alcohol. Right? What determines blood alcohol concentration? Okay, it's determined by the amount of alcohol you drink. The more alcohol means higher BAC. How fast you drink. Faster drinking means higher BAC. And your weight. A small person doesn't have to drink as much to reach the same BAC. Alcohol and the brain. Okay, alcohol affects more and more of the brain as BAC builds up. The first part of the brain affected controls judgment and self-control. That's a test question. First part of the brain affects control, judgment, and self-control. One of the bad things about this is it can keep drinkers from knowing they are getting drunk. And of course, good judgment and self-control are absolutely necessary for safe driving. A blood alcohol concentration continues to build up. Muscle control, vision, and coordination are affected more and more. So the effects on driving, of course, is straddling the lanes, quick jerking starts, not signaling, failure to use your lights, running stop signs and red lights, improper passing. Okay, so those are some of the things that muscle, if you lose muscle control, vision, and coordination, those are the things that are affected. These effects mean increased chances of a crash and a chance of losing your driver's license. Accident statistics show that the chance of a crash is much greater for drivers who have been drinking for drivers who have not been drinking. Okay. How alcohol affects driving. All drivers are affected by drinking alcohol. Alcohol affects judgment, vision, coordination, and reaction time. It causes serious driving errors, such as increased reaction time to hazards, driving too fast or too slow, driving in the wrong lane, running over curbs, or weaving. Okay. Causes serious driving errors. All right, 2.22.2. Besides alcohol, other legal and illegal drugs are being used more often. Laws prohibit possession or use of many drugs while on duty. They prohibit being under the influence of any controlled substances, amphetamines, pep pills, and so forth, narcotics of any substance which can make the driver unsafe. This could include a variety of prescription and over-the-counter drugs, which may make the driver drowsy or otherwise affect safe driving ability. However, possession and use of a drug given to a driver by a doctor is permitted if the doctor informs the driver that it will not affect safe driving ability. Pay attention to warning labels for legitimate drugs and medicines and to doctor's orders regarding possible effects. Stay away from illegal drugs. Do not use any drug that hides fatigue, The only cure for fatigue is rest. Alcohol can make the effects of other drugs much worse. The safest rule is don't mix drugs with driving at all. Use of drugs can lead to traffic accidents, resulting in death, injury, and property damage. Furthermore, it can lead to arrest, fines, and jail sentences. It can also mean the end of a person's driving career. Okay. 2.23, staying alert and fit to drive. Driving a vehicle for long hours is tiring. Even the best drivers will become less alert. However, there are things that good drivers do to help stay alert. Okay. 2.23.1, be ready to drive. First thing is get enough sleep. Sleep is not like money. You can't save it up ahead of time. You can't borrow it. But just as with money, you can go into debt with it. If you don't sleep enough, you owe more sleep to yourself. This debt can only be paid off by sleeping. That's a test question. You cannot overcome it with willpower. It won't go away by itself. The average person needs 7 or 8 hours of sleep every 24 hours. That's a possible test question. Leaving on a long trip when you're already tired is dangerous. If you have a long trip scheduled, make sure you get enough sleep before you go. Okay. Schedule trips safely. Try to arrange your schedule so that you are not in sleep debt. Okay. Before a long trip. Your body gets used to sleeping certain hours. If you are driving during those hours, you will be less alert. Okay. If possible, try to schedule trips for the hours you are normally awake. Many heavy motor vehicles accidents occur between midnight and 6 a.m. Tired drivers can easily fall asleep at these times, especially if they don't regularly drive at these hours. Trying to push on and finish a long trip at these times can be very dangerous. Okay, I'm going to skip down here. Of course, it says exercise regularly, eat healthy. Then it says avoid medication. Many medications can make you sleepy. Those that do have a label warning against operating vehicles or machinery. The most common medicine for this type of is an ordinary cold pill. Okay, this is a test question. If you have to drive with a cold, you are better off suffering from the cold than the effects of the medicine. Okay, the most common medicine that makes you tired is ordinary cold medicine. Ordinary cold medicine. All right, 2.23.2. While you are driving, keep cool. Okay, this is a test question. A hot, poorly ventilated vehicle can make you sleepy. Keep the window or vent cracked open or use the air conditioner if you have one. And then take breaks. Short breaks can keep you alert. Recognize the danger signs of drowsy driving. Okay, sleep is not voluntary. If you're drowsy, you can fall asleep and never know it. If you are drowsy, you are likely to have micro sleeps. Those are brief naps that last about 4 to 5 seconds. At 55 miles per hour, that's more than 100 yards and plenty of time to crash. If you are not aware of being drowsy, if you have a sleep debt, you are still at risk. Here are a few ways to tell if you are about to sleep. If you experience any of these danger signs, take them as warnings that you could fall asleep without meaning to. Okay, without meaning to. Your eyes close or go out of focus by themselves. You have trouble keeping your head up. You can't stop yawning. You're wondering, disconnected thoughts. You don't remember driving the last few miles. You drift between lanes, tailgate, or miss traffic signs. You keep jerking the truck back onto the lane. You have drifted off the road and narrowly missed crashing. If you have any one of these symptoms, you are in danger of falling asleep. Pull off the road in a safe place and take a nap. Okay. 2.23.3, when you do become sleepy. When you are sleepy, trying to push on is far more dangerous than most drivers think. It is the major cause of fatal accidents. Here are some important rules to follow. Stop to sleep. When your body needs sleep, sleep is the only thing that will work. If you have to make a stop anywhere, make it whenever you feel the first sign of sleepiness, even if it's earlier than you had planned. And then take a nap. If you can't stop for the night, or at least pull off to a safe place, stop, such as a rest area or a truck stop, and take a nap. Okay? And then avoid drugs. There are no drugs that can overcome being tired. While they may keep you awake for a while, they will not make you alert. And eventually, you'll be even more tired than if you had just hadn't taken them at all. Sleep is the only thing that can overcome fatigue. And this next one is definitely a test question. Do not rely on coffee or another source of caffeine to keep you awake. Do not count on the radio or open a window or other tricks to keep you awake. Okay. All right, 2.24, hazardous materials, rules for all commercial drivers. All drivers should know something about hazardous materials. You must be able to recognize hazardous cargo, and you must know whether or not you can haul it without having a hazardous material endorsement on your CDL license. Okay, so what are hazardous materials? This is a test question. It's a definite test question. Hazardous materials are products that pose a risk to health, safety, and property during transportation. A definite test question. Okay. Again, hazardous materials are products that pose a risk to health, safety, and property during transportation. Right? So why are there rules? Okay. Why are there rules? You must follow the many rules about transporting hazardous materials. The intent of the rules is to contain the product, communicate the risk, and ensure safe drivers and equipment. Those are test questions. Again, the intent of the rules is to contain the product, communicate the risk, ensure safe drivers and equipment. Okay. All right, so it says here under to communicate the risk. Firefighters and police can prevent or reduce the amount of damage or injury at the scene if they know what hazardous materials are being transported. Your life and the life of others may depend on quickly locating the hazardous material shipping papers. For that reason, you must identify shipping papers related to hazardous materials or keep them on top of other shipping papers. You must also keep shipping papers in a pouch or on the driver's door or in clear view within reach while driving or on the driver's seat when out of the vehicle. Okay. Again, keep them in a pouch on the driver's door, in clear view within reach while driving, on the driver's seat while out of the vehicle. All right. 2.24.3, placards. Placards are used to warn others of hazardous material. That's a test question. Again, placards are used to warn others of hazardous materials. Placards are signs put on the outside of a vehicle that identify the hazard class of the cargo. A placarded vehicle must have at least 4 identical placards. They are put on the front, the rear, and both sides. Placards must be readable from all 4 directions. They must be at least 1034-inch square, turned right side at a point in a diamond shape. Cargo tanks and other bulk packaging display the identification number of their contents on the placards or the orange panels. On flipped over to page 41. All right, so we just talked about that, and we're going to go here where we just talked about that, right? To drive a vehicle that carries hazardous materials if it does not require a placard. Okay, if it does not require a placard. All right, it says here, not all vehicles carrying hazardous materials needs a placard. The rules about placards are given in section 9, which of course we're not going to cover because we're not getting a hazmat license. You can drive a vehicle that carries hazardous materials if it does not require a placard. Okay, if it is if it does require one, then you cannot drive it unless you have a hazmat endorsement. Drivers who need the hazmat endorsement must learn the placard rules. If you do not know if your vehicle needs placards, ask your employer. Never drive a vehicle needing placards unless you have the hazardous material endorsement. To do so is a crime. When stopped, you will be cited and you will not be allowed to drive your truck. It will cost you time and money. A failure to placard when needed may risk your life and others if you have an accident. Emergency help will not know of your hazardous cargo. Hazardous material drivers must also know what products they can load together and which they cannot. Okay, these rules are also discussed in chapter 9. Before loading a truck with more than one type of product, you must know if it is safe to load them together. If you do not know, ask your employer or consult the regulations. All right,